Great.
There we go.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Right. Hello, everybody. My name's Sarah Lewis. I think Sally already said that. So I'm a chartered architect since 2010, also a Passivhaus designer since 2010. And I work as Research, Education and Policy Director at the UK Passivhaus Trust. And that's a role I do kind of 3 days a week. And then 1 or 2 days a week when I can kind of juggle my little girls. I work as one of the Passivhaus training team at Coaction. So today I get the privilege of wearing 2 hats, which is very nice. And it's been really fab to be able to work kind of collaboratively across these 2 non-profit organizations to pull together this course. And I'm really excited that we're at the kind of point that we are today to be able to present the kind of early stage proposals to you all. The overarching kind of aim is to, as Sally said, make sure this is provided as kind of free, universally available material to all the architecture students around the UK. And the idea is that the material is going to be able to deliver the elements of building performance to cover some of those key elements of both the RIBA climate literacy knowledge requirements, but also the ARB sustainability competency requirements. And this morning, I did say that if I do seem particularly cheerful today, it's because last night I got to sit and watch Passivhaus being discussed by Scottish Parliament. And I think we had probably more mentions of Passivhaus in that 18-minute TV segment than I've ever seen on, certainly in any parliamentary debate in the UK, possibly around the world. So that was really exciting. And with that proposed legislation, of course, it makes the discussions that we're having today kind of even more important than ever. So that's just my little preamble. So I'm just going to now give a super brief introduction to the trust and then Coaction, and then I'll get on to the proper proposal. So the Passivhaus Trust is a kind of independent non-profit organisation, and we provide leadership in the UK for the adoption of the Passivhaus standard and methodology. And our aim is really to promote the principles of Passivhaus as this highly effective way of reducing energy use and carbon emissions critically from buildings in the UK. And at the same time, providing really high standards of health and comfort for people and also buildings. And really important, in fact, kind of increasingly important in our warming climate, is all the elements around summer comfort as well, although that feels a long way off at the moment still. It's very chilly up in Scotland still at the moment. But as I said, I'm wearing 2 hats today, so I'd also like to introduce our multidisciplinary training team at Coaction, who are all pictured here. We're all active practitioners who are working really at the forefront of low energy building design in the UK. And we have the kind of like a shared vision together, which is to help tackle the climate and ecological emergency by improving the built environment, because that's the sector that we're all working in. And as a group, we're doing this, of course, through our own work, but increasingly through our training courses, as it kind of really gives us the greatest reach to access as many kind of future designers and contractors as possible. And our training in the industry has a really good reputation for delivering high quality and really technically rigorous courses that really do set the delegates up for delivering buildings which are going to perform in practice. And I think that's the really critical thing that we want to transfer across to the students so that they're graduating with those skills. And we've been running these courses since 2011, so lots of experience doing this. And as you can see, we're a very smiley bunch in the photos there, and we really are so excited by the opportunity to give access to the really fantastic resources of this training team to students right across the UK. And we do feel really strongly that the students need to be given these opportunities to feel really empowered through this kind of practical positive action that they can take during the kind of development of their designs to address the climate emergency. And for me personally, in our profession as architects, we have such an amazing opportunity to make this genuine change. And as a training team, we're really committed to making sure that we're able to deliver the programs that we do in a really kind of thoughtful and really engaging way. And it's been really fun to be able to develop this course as far as we've got it, along with RIBA and also David and Heba at SCOSA. I'm not sure if they're on the call, I can't see everybody, but to get the sort of proposals to the point they are where we can discuss them with you all today. So now I'm going to spend less than 10 minutes just introducing what we've put together, and then we'll get into the fun bit where it's a bit more interactive and you can all get into the Miro board and start to give feedback to us. So so if you go to the next slide, Sally, and the next few slides, the text is quite small. Feel free, Tilly will have put the link in into the Miro board in the chat. Feel free to open that up and then you can zoom in as much as you want to any of the slides, but I will talk through it. So you can also just listen for now if you would rather. So we started the proposal by kind of reviewing the RIBA climate change literacy knowledge schedule, and we've highlighted the key sections that we're going to focus on through the course. And we'll of course keep this evolving as that RIBA schedule develops as well. Next slide.
I'm from the UK, so this is a meeting in the UK.
I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Is that someone with a comment, or is that someone not with accidentally chatting with their microphone on?
I just put her on mute for the moment, and then I'll just ask if she's in the chat. Okay.
Thanks, Sally. Thanks. Okay, if you go into the next frame. So we also reviewed our sustainability competency guidelines, and I appreciate this text is very small, but I know you probably are all really familiar with the content. And in fact, I understand from David SCOSA that there's actually a new version out for consultation at the moment. So we'll be updating everything to reflect that anyway. But I just really wanted to highlight that we're also mapping the course to these requirements. So when kind of considering both sets of these requirements together, we realized that actually we could input in a really meaningful way to many of those RIBA priority subjects and also those ARB mandatory competencies, using kind of the existing training material that we've already got, but just adapting this to university level and then augmenting it and supplementing it with maybe some additional activities and support just to make it really appropriate. Next slide or frame. So we've used these kind of RIBA priority subjects and the ARB competencies to map our training. And we've drafted out effectively like an initial proposal or kind of learning journey that Sally was talking about for the students, just to illustrate how we could use the training material that we have to embed the principles of building performance into the students' kind of learning journeys. And as a group, we are all so passionate about this, and we want to make sure that we can find a way to have a proposal where you and all your students can feel kind of like equally inspired and empowered through adding this into your curriculums. So I'm going to talk through our initial thoughts on content, and then I'm going to hand over to Sally, and she'll introduce the kind of interactive section. But everything that we're presenting or that I'm going to present is just kind of for our first thoughts, and we'd now be looking for your input and feedback just to make sure that we can make sure that as this is developed, it's done so in the best way possible to meet your needs. And just to reiterate that both the Trust and Coaction, as I mentioned at the start, are non-profit organisations. So our whole objective here is to work out the very best way to work with you in getting this knowledge into your schools. So first slide on the material.
Sarah, just a really kind of minor thing, that we're talking about this as if it is to university kind of lecturers and people that are delivering courses, but just as much we very much want the guys that are here from the industry or kind of past students and all of that. The feedback from you guys is just as critical. So yeah, you're all welcome, and we definitely want your help, please.
Yes, thanks, Sally. Okay, so I'm just now going to talk through our thoughts on what this kind of learning journey could look like. And I appreciate, again, the text is small on your screen, so you can be looking at on the Miro board if that is easier. So we're calling it a performance foundations course. The name will probably change, but just for the purposes of this, that's what I'll refer to it as. And that would be the kind of starting point for all faculty and students. And ultimately, we see this forming maybe like a first year syllabus. And we could see this easily just being integrated into the delivery of existing technology and environment curriculums through existing modules, so no need to change curriculums. But the key difference that we see is that all teaching staff, and ideally and probably critically those who are working in design studio practice, are engaging in this course. So it's not seen as something that's done in a lecture theatre and it doesn't get across into the studio. So the time commitment is only a couple of days, like 1 or 2 days for staff. And we feel it's so important for ensuring that the learning from this is not seen as something that sits on the side, but it really is used as a foundation for all the kind of design work. And it really embeds the principles of good building performance into that studio environment. So the way we've broken this down is it would be 4 half-day sessions, and those are made up of around 3 hours of material and then some time for self-testing or other activities. And that self-testing bit could be student-led or it could be tutor-led. And then a really key component will be having some way to ensure that this is then put into practice by students in their design work. And for this, we're proposing some sort of like performance scoring framework. And that would be based on the knowledge objectives from this course. And these could then be used by tutors to assess projects in the studio and be a kind of consistent series of metrics, which are kind of reiterated year on year. And just to be clear, we're teaching Passivhaus here as a route to building performance. It's not about a badge. It's about an understanding of how to deliver really excellent building performance, while at the same time, we're looking at minimizing that operation on whole life carbon of the buildings that the students are designing. And we're really keen to make sure that through this course, the students at the same time become critically aware equally of things that Passivhaus does not deliver as much as things that it does deliver. So initially, to accommodate all the students currently enrolled across all the years who have not yet been through this course, we just propose that everybody take this course, all students, all faculty, if possible, to provide a really good, solid kind of knowledge base which can be built on, regardless of what year of study people are in at the moment. But as I said, this would be like a first step. So this is the first stage of a much more kind of holistic journey, which would just be augmenting the teaching that is already being delivered through the universities, just by embedding more skills specific to look at building performance. So it's all about the performance of the buildings, getting that into the education. Next slide, Sally. So that's the first piece of development work. That's what's happening at the moment. And then after that's the next thing, we sort of started to map out how this learning could be rolled out over kind of subsequent years. So all the first years who've passed through that kind of performance foundation course could then go on to have this learning further embedded through both kind of practical experience with materials and techniques, which we feel is really important. So they get a real good kind of handle on what materials are required and how it's detailed, and also through engagement with local Passivhaus practitioners. So we'd want to be able to support schools by providing kind of practical examples of what the students could do, along with kind of learning objectives for that kind of practical work, as well as maybe specifications for best practice design junctions. And then we'd also want to be setting up those relationships between schools and local practices to facilitate maybe case studies or site visits to embed that kind of real world contemporary work within the kind of context of the learning. We also are really conscious of the need for good retrofit specific skills. So while the skills that are going to be learned in that first year through the Performance Foundations course are totally applicable to retrofit, we'd like to have some more focused material coming in sort of from year 2, specifically around retrofit, just so that it can be built upon that kind of basic knowledge that's been embedded at year 1. We'd also like to provide some detail around what Passivhaus delivers in terms of the kind of human experience. And again, we just propose that could be a pretty light touch from us. So just providing material which can be delivered by the teams in the universities as they see appropriate. Okay, final frame from me before we get to the interactive bit. Okay, so the final kind of piece of the puzzle, although this is very much optional, is for students to go on and take the internationally recognized European Passivhaus Designer course. So that is a standalone course, which we do deliver at Coaction. It's already being delivered with some universities, in fact, Bath being one. But at the moment, the model only really allows for this to be given as a standalone course. And we see a huge benefit in instead this being part of the kind of learning journey for students, as we kind of outlined here today. Of course, if schools are interested in running that now for 3rd or 4th year students, it's something they could definitely discuss with Coaction. But it very that part, that international qualification is great, but the students really need to have a really good understanding of how buildings work, how sites work before they can really sit that exam. So it would definitely be a kind of master's level piece of the puzzle, so to speak. So one more thing, which I mentioned this morning, I just want to mention again before I hand over to Sally. If you are looking at this and thinking that's all great, but that's all in the future, and Sally's going to go through the frame. If you're looking for an immediate way for your students to engage and upskill in Passivhaus and retrofit specifically, we are currently running a climate responsive retrofit university design challenge for 2023. And that is in partnership with Timber Development UK, and registration is currently open to students and is closing at the end of this week. So you're at the end of the period for sign up. But if you've got any students who you think might be interested, do get them to sign up for that, because I'll get lots of free resources through that as well. And I think that's it. So I'm going to hand over to Sally, who's going to talk you through how the interactive bit's going to work. And then, yeah, then it'll be over to all of you. So, right, Sally.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you very much for that. The other thing that I keep meaning to also, it'd be great to put in the chat as well, the reference to the free resources that the Passivhaus Trust already has developed, in terms of there's some kind of some simple self-study stuff, but actually covers the basics really well. So that again is another great kind of resource as well that's kind of applicable right now. So what we're going to talk about now is, during the workshop there are kind of four key questions that we've got for you guys that we want feedback on, because one of our big concerns is that this information is really easy to digest. There's no concepts that are very complicated that we're going to put across. However, applying them in practice is tricky, and that's all of us kind of within the Passivhaus practitioner world know just how hard it is to actually do this in reality. And that's where we really want to make sure the training kind of gets embedded. So we're really interested, a lot of these questions are around that, and about how we make sure that this doesn't just become another tick box exercise. From our perspective, that's kind of really crucial. So we've got some questions here about both what should be in there, and also what kind of how we make sure that it kind of gets embedded into the process of learning at universities, and also kind of potentially also think about how it could, what tools and things we need in future as well. So that's what we want you to think about when we're doing the workshop session. And just in terms of the kind of the time frame and what's going on, because as we said, one of the kind of key things is to get some training, some basic training in there really quickly. So the foundations course is based on training material which we have already developed. Okay, so it's mostly a kind of course that's there that we're trying to kind of work out how that it's currently presented to professionals within the construction industry, and we want to work out how do we apply this to university students. But the kind of core subjects are kind of there. And the intention is that we get this done as quickly as possible and completed in May 23, so that then tutors can review it at that time and both give feedback to us about what needs changing, and also so they understand what's there and they can think about how to kind of integrate this into their process. And then the intention is that that will be a live course which will be provided to the students that will be starting in 23. And as Sarah said, this was something where we want it to be kind of applied as broadly as possible. So it's whilst we're aiming at year one students to take this on, we also want it, we're happy that kind of older years, whatever you call that, can also take hold of it. Once we've got that up and running, then we will start to look at the next stage, as Sarah said, the kind of practical retrofit aspect of it. So we are, yeah, that's kind of coming up, and we're very much, that's kind of the time frame that we're doing. Now, what I'd like to do is we're going to go back to the to these sections here, and I hope everyone's had been able to join the Miro board, and hopefully you can see the three different sections that we've got here. So this is the year one foundation stuff that we said, but that's what we're developing this year. Then we've got the practical stuff, which is kind of our next in our sites we're going to do after we've finished that. And then we've got the Passivhaus designer course. So we're really happy, and with each of these, the questions that I talked about, there are 4 key questions which we'd really like your feedback. You can see that there are comments on here already from the session that we did this morning, so please do add to them. We're going to just wrap up, and I've got a request from for you all. So in terms of us developing the material now, so between now and May, we've got some things that we'd be really grateful for some input from all of you guys. And the first one is real practical experience of things that either didn't go ideally, so not necessarily things that are absolutely appalling, but things which were kind of good intentions, but actually due to a tolerance issue, this is kind of a classic example here where there was a tolerance issue. It wasn't able to be constructed to the standard that was expected, or possibly because of a misunderstanding of sequence or things like that. If you have examples of early stage architectural decision making that kind of led to difficulty in terms of kind of this, where we've clearly got something which is not going to perform as predicted, or things relating to the kind of construction and the detailing, or things relating to the building services. If you have examples of those, we would be really grateful for it. We're going to do a later call out, which will be about more kind of specific cases and where we've got gaps in terms of our own resources, but anything that you can provide on that would be incredibly helpful. The other thing is we're looking for some willing volunteers to provide specific feedback on, say, it might be the one that I'm really nervous about is the kind of the marking framework, and just making sure that that is as robust as possible, that it's easy to use, and that it makes sense in terms of the outputs that it's kind of measuring against. So they're both kind of relatively small bits of work, but we're really hoping that the community can kind of rally around and help us with this stuff. If you do help, we're going to have a supporters page, and we'll put your name or the organisation name on the supporters page, which will come up on each of the sections that we're doing. And we will, of course, credit everyone on the photographs and whatever else. So it would make a huge difference to us to have that kind of a kind of broad range of building types, and examples from all kinds of different walks of life would be incredibly helpful to give them a range of kind of experiences. Again, coming back to that whole thing about kind of particularly having, as much as possible, we're kind of trying to drive case studies and real construction photos and real experience and stuff. So it's as kind of practical as possible. So if you can help with that, it would be incredibly useful. So that might be both things like, these are all kind of construction detailing where we've got one bad and two great examples here, but it might also be about, I don't know, a glazing design of, so it might be kind of a bit of a finished building which you think is either particularly good or particularly there are particular issues with, and if you can kind of help by identifying what they are as well, then that would be even better. So that would be amazingly helpful. And then we'll you get a big smiley face from us, a big sticker, well done sticker, and yeah, that's it. So we're now at the end. You're very welcome to carry on putting comments below. As we said, it will be open for 2 weeks. Please do feel free to share the link to the Miro board as well. That we're really happy for other people to contribute to it. There will be a video of this, which will also we'll stick up somewhere, so people that were unable to attend, they're also able to view it. And I think that is everything from us. What have I missed, Sarah?
I don't think anything.
Yeah, yay. Oh my goodness, so we're only 2 minutes over. So
thank you, everybody. That was really great.
Yeah, if anyone's got any questions, you're very welcome to kind of stay and ask them. Otherwise, you're very welcome to head off, and we look forward to reading all your comments. Oh, I forgot to say, in terms of our request for help, if you, the best way to do that is to contact our training website, training email, which I think Tilly is going to put in there in the chat, but it's just our normal Coaction website. I keep saying website, is our normal training account anyway. So please do email us, and yeah, we'll look forward to being in touch. Hi, Greg.
Hello. Thank you for that. It was really interesting. Not coming from a student background rather than anything else. But I was wondering if I could I can carry on writing things because I haven't finished. If that's okay.
Amazing. Yes, please. As much feedback as you can give would be very much appreciated. So yes, you can carry on for the next couple of weeks. So the Miro board will be open and then we'll close it. So please, yeah, carry on as much as you want.
Okay, that's appreciated. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sally, and thanks, Sarah, for all your time and effort and passion.
Oh, lovely to see you. Thank you for your input. We look forward to being in touch.
See you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Greg. Bye. Right. Okay. Has anyone got any last questions? Otherwise, I'm going to close up for the day. Let me take that as a no. Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye,
Nice to see you.
Tabitha.
Hello and goodbye. Sorry, multitasking. Absolutely. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay, bye.
Bye.